Season 7 of Next Generation was the most chaotic time that I have ever experienced. We were producing the last season of Next Generation, which we were all well aware of. We'd been well aware of for 2 years. We were well into pre-production on a feature film that we knew we were going to be beginning a week after we wrapped on the last episode. We were shooting the second season of Deep Space Nine, and we were in full development of the first season of Star Trek Voyager, all happening at the same time.
Your genetic code is a cross between the DNA of your mother, Miranda Vigo, and your father, Jean-Luc Picard.
To me, the family season was season 7. It seemed like everyone had a family member who came out, whether it was a son Picard didn't know he had, or Troy's mom and someone's brother, and this, and it was really not intentional. And the kind of currents that take place in each season are not really intentional. We're lucky to get 26 episodes done.
Brothers. Mom, is it you?
Rest in peace, Nana.
This is my brother Worf. He's come to help us.
Goodbye, Mother.
Mother, stop it.
It's good to have you home, son.
Thanks, Mom.
Really. I would say absolutely, like, my best episodes were probably this year. Just all around. Even the strength in my relationship with Wesley Crusher. It was strong the first season, but then I felt it got into an odd position where basically if he ever needed a mentor and a strong role model, he would go to one of the men on the ship.
I don't need you telling me how to behave.
I shouldn't have to.
Maybe I'm sick of living up to everyone else's expectations. Did you ever think of that?
Gene Roddenberry had this idea that there was going to be something special about Wesley Crusher, that Wesley Crusher was not going to be just an average kid. And he put in the first season writer's guide that at some point during the first season, the Enterprise would encounter some kind of alien, and the alien would reveal to Picard that there was something special and different about Wesley.
You know that alien from Tau Ceti?
The Traveler.
He told Captain Picard a long time ago that you were very special, like Mozart. And that you were destined for something quite different from the rest of us.
There's something a little bit different about this kid. You know, that he was a prodigy, that there was something different, the wiring in his brain that made him special. And the Traveler was the alien that related to Picard. You should encourage this kid. You should encourage his love of warp field dynamics, and you should encourage his natural curiosity about things, which led to Picard giving Wesley the occasional duties on the bridge of the Enterprise.
We felt like he deserved a goodbye. Jerry Taylor wrote Final Mission, and that was sort of his last adventure, but then we really wanted to do something that sent him away, that sent him to something grander, because we were starting to run up against what we felt were the limitations of the Star Trek universe, the sort of notion that everybody wants to be in Starfleet. Everybody has to be in Starfleet. Starfleet's the greatest thing in the world, you know. And yeah, I love Starfleet. I would want to be in it personally, but not everybody would. And what if Wesley, the guy who had built his whole life around the notion of living in his father's footsteps and putting on that uniform, had spent all this time on the bridge, what if he got to the academy and it sucked?
Starfleet isn't for me.
Look, I may not be able to stop you from throwing away your entire life, but you are going to stand here and explain it to me first.
I've known I needed to do this for a long time.
But you always said that being at the academy was the best thing that ever happened to you.
I know. For a while it was. But as time went on and graduation got closer, I started feeling really depressed.
The way that Wesley finally leaves the series is with the Traveler. Wesley undergoes all of this trauma and kind of transcends linear time and pulls himself out into maybe what you might call the fourth dimension, you know, like space-time together, and then leaves with the Traveler and heads off to explore the universe or something like that. I always tell people that Wesley becomes the Star Child from 2001, because, you know, the whole message of that is man no longer needs his body, and that's like the next evolutionary step. So I just decided that Wesley goes off to be the Star Child.
I hoped that you would open your mind to new possibilities, and you did. You pulled yourself out of time, don't you see? You've evolved to a new level. You're ready to explore places where thought and energy combine. in ways you can't even imagine.
Is it really you?
Yes, Jordy. It's Mom.
But how can that be? I mean, how is this possible?
There's no time to explain.
It was interesting because that was the episode where he made contact with his mom, Madge Sinclair. What an actor. Madge played my mother a couple of times throughout the course of our career. She passed a number of years ago, but she was a great friend and a great actress. Also, my good friend Ben Vereen was in that episode, and Ben played my father. And Ben is, in my case, a large part of why I became an actor.
Jordy, your mother's gone. Yeah, well, you can think that if you want. But until I see some hard evidence, I'm not going to give up hope. All right, Jordy. Call me if you need anything.
When we decided on the franchise for Voyager, we knew that we were taking some risks. We decided in a very calculated way to cut our ties with everything that was familiar. We realized that we needed to set up some things in the last months of Next Generation. Specifically, we established the idea of the Maquis, who are a group of freedom fighters.
Nobody wants peace any more than the Maquis.
And you're willing to blow up Cardassian ships to get it?
The Bach-No will never smuggle weapons again.
And its crew members won't be returning home to their families either.
So we did a two-part episode on Deep Space Nine and then treated it again in Next Generation in the next to last episode.
To all Maquis ships, call off your attack, or we will be forced to engage you.
We also established in a show called Journey's End the idea that Native Americans had left Earth in around the 22nd century in an effort to preserve their cultural identity, and that they live on several separate planets where they're able to pursue their myths, their belief system in the way that they chose to do. So in those ways we were able to kind of help the audience along by establishing the background for some of these characters.
Do you know how long we have searched for a home? Almost 200 years. Then we found this world. Can you blame us for not wanting to give it up?
When we started season 7, we knew it was the last season. And from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, we were trying to do episodes that went back to some of the most important issues that we had faced over the life of the series, to do justice to the characters, to do justice to the storylines that may not have been entirely tied up. As I recall, that 7th season, the show was nominated for Best Drama. So that's a very proud season for us.
Why didn't you ever tell me you were in love with me?
You were married to my best friend.
And when Jack died, you felt guilty.
I felt guilty before he died. Having feelings like that for my best friend's wife.
I think they've been very supportive of having larger roles, and they were very supportive of having something between the captain and Dr. Crusher and in the episode Attached. And they were things that weren't quite as prevalent in the other years before. So that was nice.
There was clearly history between Crusher and Picard that informed the way Gates and Patrick played the characters, and I think because they were both capable of playing different levels, I think it helped scripts that didn't even intend that relationship to help.
Now that we know how each of us feels, perhaps we should not be afraid to explore those feelings.
Or perhaps we should be afraid.
Her suggested potential romance with Picard has been touched on in reality and in unrealistic situations and in forced situations. And I think we've had some fun playing with that sexual tension that has never truly been realized yet. It does get touched upon a bit in the final episode in a unique fashion that we learn what happens eventually as the years go on.
We're shooting the last episode, and actually tomorrow is, apart from Patrick, it's everyone's last day. So it's going to be, and we're actually, our last scene is the last scene of the script, so it's the very last scene. So it's all very symbolic and it's all very sad, and it might be interesting for you to come down tomorrow and watch us shooting that scene, because it's going to be a mess.
I don't know how or why, but I'm moving back and forth through time.
When we started into the season, we knew that final episode was looming at the end of the season. It was in some ways like a dark presence that was in our peripheral vision that we knew we were going to have to address, and it was very intimidating. How do you bring to a conclusion a journey as remarkable as the one that we have all taken with Star Trek over the last 7 years?
We demonstrated to you that mankind had become peaceful and benevolent. You agreed and you let us go on our way. Now why am I standing here again?
They'd be so much more entertained if you just tried to figure it out.
The only thing that made it tough, I think, towards the very end was all the press that was showing up every day to kind of cover the end of the show, the end of the series, and the fact that we weren't going to have any time off really, and we were going right into a feature film.
So much comes back. I mean, around that time, we were all exhausted. We were all emotionally fragile.
By the time you got to the end of any season, you were exhausted. I mean, it was really an incredible roller coaster that just didn't stop. People say you have no life when you do an hour-long series. Well, you really don't. How can you?
It's the end of the TV show, and the TV show is what has made everybody who they are now. And I know we're going to go off and do the movie, so it's not as if we're going to say goodbye to our, to the rest of the actors tomorrow, but we are going to be saying goodbye to the crew that we've worked with, for some of them for 7 years, because they aren't going on to do the movie, and we're as close to some of them as we are to the actors. So it is going to be a very sad day, and it is the end of an era. It's the end of one of the most successful shows ever on television, and how can it not be sad?
We had a great finale, really well-written episode, and so I was happy to be there.
If I'm not mistaken, he's describing a paradox. Yes, right, that's it.
Intriguing. It is possible. We could have caused the very anomaly we've been looking for.
How do you concoct a story that is going to live up to everyone's expectations? How do you knit up or not knit up many of the arcs that have been there over the past 7 years? How do you make something that's epic and sweeping and dynamic and really leaves people with the impact that you want? And we tossed out a lot of things before we came up with something we thought was good enough to be the last episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
As a show gets older, there are both good parts and bad parts. But the characters are richer because they have more backstory. The characters have 125, 150 episodes. They have a lot of information in their past. They're not blank sheets of paper like they were in the beginning. On the other hand, a lot of our writers, we took off the show and we put onto Deep Space Nine.
Goodbye, Jean-Luc. I'm gonna miss you. You had such potential. But then again, all good things must come to an end.
Containment field isn't critical. I'm losing it.
So there were 3 TV shows in some stage of production or pre-production and a movie all going on at the same time. So it was quite a crazy time.